let's work on some details. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're back on the interior of my K5 Blazer build. You can see I've put in a little bit of work since the last time you saw it. I've gone in and filled in with putty and Bondo and did a lot of sanding just to start smoothing things out. I think I'm gonna need another layer in certain spots, but for the most part, I think everything's all smooth and actually ready for paint, really. I even went through and smoothed out some of these seams, the injection seams from the plastic. There was some pretty big ones on the seats that I didn't want to see when I added paint. So went through and shaved those off. And I believe the next thing to do on this is going to be to put a coat of primer. But you guys might remember I talked about some 3D printed details that I've been working on, wanting to put in. Today we're going to install a couple of those. We might have to get you in kind of close to see this because this stuff is absolutely tiny, but we're going to start off with the shifter and some cup holders. Now these cup holders were pretty interesting to print. I actually modeled them using actual dimensions of a cup holder I found online and just scaled it down to 1/10 scale. So you can see the walls are really thin. There's actually a couple little holes in it that formed, but we should be able to fill those in. They're so thin that they're sort of flexible, but should be able to cut those into place and glue them in, as well as this shifter. Now, I just went online and looked at a couple of different references, kind of like I did for everything else, and came up with a design for a shifter. The actual dash for the Blazer has a column shift, but I wanted to go with a console shift, so this will glue in as well. That'll be some really quick installs, just mocking up where they go, cutting some holes and gluing them in, and then we'll get to something that may be a little more interesting. Sitting back inside the body, that looks pretty sweet. Got those back panels all finished up. Just one more little gap to cover up there. I have some cup holders and a shifter in there. The steering wheel is in place. I shaved down that. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of, which I'm realizing is going to cause some issues, but there is a fix for it. The dash is a little low, putting the steering wheel kind of far down there. I've seen online there's some risers you can 3D print to raise that dashboard up where it meets closer with the body here, and I believe I'm going to do that, but when I do that, the dash will no longer fit flush with my center console, so I may have to modify that. Kind of wish I'd have looked into that before, but something we'll have to work on. But looking through that window looks pretty good, but there's one thing missing. One thing to finish it off. You might notice back there, there's no door panels in this thing. If we're looking through the windows, we need to be able to see some door panels to finish off that look, and I think I have just the thing. These were really fun to design in Fusion 360. Just starting with a few dimensions, a few basic dimensions, and kind of running wild. You see here, I went and Procreate on my iPad first and did a couple of sketches of what I wanted to do basically, and then started modeling and came up with some pretty sweet looking door panels, I believe. Got these fresh off the printer. You may be able to see on camera, or it may be kind of tough to see. There's a couple imperfections in these. Basically the wall thickness of these prints is really thin. I wanted to keep it light. The first prints I did came out a good bit better, but they're really heavy. Two of these panels weigh less than one of these. And when I'm talking about something that those servos is having to lift up and down for my airbag suspension, this weight isn't the best. So I went in and shaved a lot of weight off. Unfortunately, it left me with some really thin walls. So we have some not so great finishes here, but you can see I already started sanding there. We're gonna finish that off. These are actually modeled so that they fit up against the curves of the body on the inside, and it can glue into place. And I'll get you in closer so you can see in there, but that's not even glued in just yet, but it already looks awesome. It already finishes off the interior a whole lot more. I'm pretty excited about getting these glued into place. They really finish off the interior, ties in with that center console really well. There's one little gap down there I'm not sure if you'd be able to see, basically a kick panel that I may do a little something with styrene for. But overall, these door panels I think really help finish off the interior. I'm gonna see if I can clean up the edges of them a little bit, make them look a little better, and then we'll glue them into place. Well, let's fast forward a bit, because you see, I went ahead and glued some styrene pieces to the inside of the body. I decided it was probably going to be better to paint these door panels outside of the body. I have some detail work, multiple colors I want to paint here, and it's going to be really tough to be taping inside of there and painting, especially if the outside of the body is already painted. And if it's not, then I got to tape up all of my work here to paint the outside of the body. So you can see I added those 3 little strips of styrene, and all that'll do, I'll end up putting some glue to finish it off. But for now, it actually fits pretty snugly. And snap that into place, and my door panels will fit in. This will be really easy, like I said, to paint it outside of the body and then put it into place after without having to glue on any painted surfaces. You might notice that I put a little coat of primer on that door panel. I wanted to really be able to see what spots I needed to fill left. You might not have noticed I ended up reprinting those door panels and thickening up just that little back section so I didn't have no waves or light spots in the panels anymore. There was still a little bit of filling that needed to be done, so I did that, added a coat of primer, and I still see a couple more spots. But I primed the entire interior. That way we can see what really needs filling. It helps us to see an even coat. I also forgot to mention that I went ahead and modeled and 3D printed a riser for the dashboard. This gets the dashboard a little higher up, gets the steering wheel a little further away from the seat, and it looks a little more scale. You can really see as we get this in, I think we can really start to see how everything flows and fits together in that interior now that we have a coat of primer on everything. Let me know what you guys think though. Can you see my vision of the interior coming together now? And how do you feel it looks now with a coat of primer on it? Still a lot of sanding, filing, filling left to do. I'll do most of that off camera unless you guys want to see it. Obviously, let me know down in the comments below if that's the kind of stuff you want to see. But if not, I'll do a lot of that off camera, and the next time you see this interior, we'll actually be putting paint on it, color paint. I need to do a little bit more research. I have a couple ideas. Some of you sent me some ideas of how I can get the textures I want, leather-wise and different materials. So I think I'm on the right path, but still a little bit more research to do, and then we can start putting some color on this once it's all smooth and flushed out. So not too much action today, a lot of 3D printed parts that just kind of got slapped in, but hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed seeing it come together. I really like the look of this right now. Drop a like down below to let me know what you think of the interior. Subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this build. I think the final part before paint will be some minor exterior details, some customization stuff that I have in mind, and then it'll be time for paint. You definitely don't want to miss any of that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.